Hey guys, Frasure Studios Part 2 molds and meeple making for pandemic crafting that would happen at Gen Con. I thought today we would finish our meeple molds. So if you have those from last time or you've made them or it's, like August 2037, hi, welcome, this is what we're doing. First thing we need to do is take our little meeples or molds out of their little containers. And so the easiest way to do that is you peel off the tape and the glue, and then you're going to, with your thumb, or sometimes a popsicle stick or a paintbrush, push from the underside. And meeples do yeet themselves on occasion. And you push the mold out, and then you just extract your blank. Then these will need to be trimmed because they will have a little edge at both top and bottom. And the best trim tool I've found is one of these little cuticle removers, because it's just really easy to then go around the edge of your mold and it makes a pretty universal slice. Easy peasy. Okay, so the next thing is you're going to have to decide if you want to use 2-part resin, like an AB resin, or if you're going to use a UV resin. I like UV resin when I'm teaching meeples or if I'm making them for myself or a gift because it's really, really fast. If I'm making a set to sell, I usually use a 2-part resin. It's much slower because each pour requires, between 6 and 18 hours cure time. And it's usually like between 4 and 9 layers for each meeple. But 2-part resin is less brittle. It is less prone to yellowing over time. But, if you're making a yellow meeple, who cares? So just decide whatever product works for you. The 2-part resin that I use is actually a product called Pro Marine, and I get it off of their website. And they have a rewards program. It does have some problems with bubbles, but it's really affordable. The UV resin I get, and it's the funniest thing because it's almost got a different name every single time I buy it, but it always has this green leaf pattern with gold in the background. And all of the instructions are not in English. Lots of trial and error here. If you're going to use the UV resin, use it in a well-ventilated area. It stinks, and it will occasionally give me a headache if I don't have it ventilated enough. You're also going to need a UV light. You can get the little flashlight style ones like off of Amazon or eBay. I've never had a small one function well enough to actually do the job. So I broke down, and for Gen Con spa classes, I bought 20 of these. And you can see it's all these little teeny tiny light bulbs all in here. And it has an eye. So when you interrupt, the vision, it turns itself on, which is really nice if you're just trying to do things fast because you just slide it in. But it also has a timer on the top that you can set for different amounts of cure time. Protect your eyes. Be cautious around children. It is UV. Do the smart things. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is you have your little mold. This is your little guy. And I'm going to work with the UV resin today. I'm going to go get my glitter. Okay, we're back. I moved it, so hopefully you can better see my workspace. And there was a slight gravity issue, but I think we have it resolved. Okay, so the first step for doing my meeple with my UV resin, which I like to store laying on its side because it's really thick. It takes a long time for it to squirt out. It's just faster if you leave it on its side. So the first thing you're going to do is pour in a layer of resin, and I'm going to use this really blunt embroidery needle to just make sure that this is pushed into his little arms and the bottom corners of his feet, and to pop any bubbles that I see. The very first layer of resin, you need to think about it as if it was a sheet of glass, like it's the front of your window. And then through that layer, you will see the other items behind that first layer. But your first layer is your sheet of glass for your display window. So we're going to put that in, make sure it's nice and fairly level and no bubbles. Ready? This is how long it takes to work. That's done. It's ready for the next layer. So I'm going to use, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I have these really cute little rainbow stars. Rainbow stars. So I'm going to do some of these, and you can purchase glitter spoons online. They're actually fairly expensive, or you can use these handy dandy, they're practice fingernails for manicurists, or they're used for swatching. So it's basically a fake fingernail on the end of a little stick. And they make great scoops, and you can get a package of about 100 of these for $3 or $4. So I put my little stars in, and I'm going to smoosh them around, use my pin to push them where I want them to be. Now, the really tricky thing about UV resin that is kind of hard to wrap your head around is it's a direct light source. So if I have a piece of glitter, as the light comes down, the resin underneath it will not get cured because it's in shadow. So usually UV resin works kind of best for very petite glitters, but you can work around it to the point where you can use confettis and natural plants and things. So I'm going to pop this one back in. I'm going to put it in for a 30-second cure this time. Okay, so we're back from that cure, and you can see, maybe it will focus, maybe not. There's my little stars. They're all suspended in the resin. I was noticing I don't have any orange in these stars, so I think I'm going to back it with some orange glitter for the contrast. So I'll do that and be back in just a second. Okay, so that's come out from its next cure. So here it is with my orange background. And you would continue to layer these until your mold was always all the way full. So if I wanted an orange back, I'd stop, with this process, or I can add in more resin again and more stars, and then a clear layer, which would, cake it. And then in the very center, there'd be that level of orange that would give you from either side a solid surface to look at. I'm going to stop here so I can show you, maybe if I can get it to focus, what we're looking at. So there's your meeple. And you'll notice it has this kind of sticky surface to it. Put that back in to cure without the mold, and it will harden off a lot of that. And then anything that's remaining, you just wipe it off with rubbing alcohol, which right now in this world is actually difficult to get your hands on, but that's just how it's going right now. This is my next meeple, and I have my clear layer in there. That would be my little window. I'm just going to give that a really fast cure. That's enough. That was literally enough time to set this layer so that I can work with it. And what I want to do with this one is I'm going to make a gift for a friend. And in my little cup of water, I have what's called a nail slide decal. Oh, come here. It's a teeny tiny bumblebee. Let's see if you can see. There we go. It's a little bee. And these are the fingernail decals. You put them in water and then they slide off the paper. This is called a porcelain decal because it's 3D, not just a flat ink print. And you can, of course, use these in your resin pieces. So I'm going to take this and slide my little bee off the corner, and that is, of course, assuming it all goes well. So far, so good. Kind of wipe off some of that extra water. And then I'm going to put it in face down. So it's going to go into my mold image side down. And that's easiest to do with these handy dandy tweezers. There we go. Okay, so I have my bee. It's in there where I want it. I'm going to give it a real quick cure so that it has the opportunity to stick itself. Ta-da! When you're using a water slide decal, you want to make sure you pull all of the water out, because any impurities in the water, you can actually generate mold inside your resin piece, which is usually kind of gross. And that's also why if you use any naturals, flowers, you want to make sure they're really, really dry. And to do that, I actually use silica, which I got off of Amazon. If there's interest, I can do a how to dry and press flowers for use in resin. Let me know, I guess, in the comments if that's of any interest to anyone, and we can cover it in another one of the videos. It's not something I teach at Gen Con just because it doesn't translate to that format well, but I could do it here on YouTube if anybody wanted to know, because that was also another whole lot of trial and error. Okay, so my little bee is in there, and I added another layer of resin and smooshed it around so that my bee is enmeshed. Now for this person, this friend of mine, she is one of those purple people. Everything in her world is purple. Always purple. You don't even have to ask her, what color do you want? Because the answer is always, always purple. So I'm going to pull out some purple things here so that I can help her with her purple fixation. Because after all, since I'm making it as a gift, I want it to be something that she likes and makes her happy. Okay, this type of glitter is called unicorn scales because it is opalescent. These little discs, I usually get them off of AliExpress. If you don't mind waiting 6 weeks or much longer for your materials to come, this is the most affordable option. But I'm going to put these in here and let them smoosh around a bit, and then give that a quick cure. Smoosh, smoosh. That's an official technical term, by the way, smooshing. Yep. Only professional resin artists know about smooshing. Give that a quick cure. Always remember to put your lid back on, and whatever you do when the lid is off, do not sneeze. Sneezing is a very bad idea. Don't do it. Breathing is optional. Sneezing, don't do it. It's not a good idea. Okay, I also have a very large collection of what is commonly called unicorn skin. It's actually shredded mylar, but it kind of depends also on who the manufacturer is by what they call it. Unicorn skin or fairy wings, or it's always something kind of silly because nobody just says shredded mylar. That would be way too easy. So I'm going to finish that out with this mylar here. I'm going to take our little meeple out, and I'm going to top him off with some more resin. I'm getting low on my resin. Squirt the resin into the meeple. Squirt. Do a little more smooshing so I know that I'm getting into the little feet and arms. Smooshy smoosh. Again, no sneezing. Don't do it. And this stuff, you see, it's actually these really large reflective flakes. So it's pretty nifty stuff. So I'm going to put that in here. And then here we're going to squash. Just smush it in there. Go in. In. Oh, I got it. And then a little more resin. Squeezing. And I'm going to stir this to make sure all of that flake is engaged with the resin. Okay, back in for our cure. Again, put your lid on. Don't sneeze. That can be catastrophic. Believe me, I know. If you do sneeze, throw your silicone trimmings on the floor. They help pick up all of the glitter that you sneezed on the floor. Okay, so here's our little meeple dude. And I'm going to pop him out of here because I'm going to turn him into a piece of jewelry. So I don't want him to be the full thickness of a meeple game piece. So here he comes out. It's your birthday. Happy birthday. I'll put him back in. The reason I'm doing this final cure is so that anything that's sticky on the surface can cure. And if wherever there was shadow cast during the curing process, that resin on the interior of the meeple itself is not cured. So I like to put them in and then turn them over a few times. You'll put them up on their feet, stand them on their little side, on their little arm. Let's see. Totally cannot see that. But just that way, if there's anything on the interior that's not been cured, it's much more likely to get to a cure. Okay, see? Here we go. And he's a little bit matte, and that is because my mold was cast from a wooden piece. So this is my final step for this piece, and this is commonly referred to as doming. Oops, oh, that works too. They call it doming within the resin artist community. And you can either pour resin on top and let it puddle on top and then cure, or you can pour your resin onto a flat surface, smoosh your little dude around, and then give that a cure. And I'll show you the difference. See how pretty and clear? So let's do the bee. And we'll do our stars. Oh, did you? I don't know. Can you see that the stars are UV reactive? Nope, can't see it. That's a bummer because it's cool. They fluoresce orange. I'm going to smoosh around my stars. Give that kind of a look at. Make sure there's no funny pet hair or anything in it. Put that in for a cure. And we wait. Cool thing about it is it's not a long wait. Ah, we're done. Here it is. Here is my little bee meeple. And here is my little star meeple. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. That's it. If you have any questions, ask me. And I'm not sure what we'll do next week. I'm thinking maybe embroidery. I don't know. Let me know. Hope you guys are having a good quarantine. Stay safe. Be healthy. See you soon.